Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Small Business Insights. I'm Don Emmett, Managing Director of Entrust Associates, and today we're here with Mickey Paradise of PDI Drywall. Mickey, thank you so much for joining us here.
Thank you for having me.
Small Business Insights.
Yes, it's very exciting.
So, can you tell us a little bit about
Sure.
the drywall business?
The drywall industry.
And how did PDI, and what does it stand for?
Well, my last name is Paradise, so
Okay.
I kind of abbreviated and then extended. So it stands for Paradise Drywall Incorporated, but then it's PDI Drywall Incorporated. I was young.
Okay.
It seemed like the best thing to do at the time.
You're still pretty young.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess that's a true thing. So I started my business my senior year in college. I went to NC State.
Okay.
And while I was in college, I did an internship with a larger drywall company, and I did that for a couple of summers. And so the intention was to go to law school. And when I was in my senior year, I realized I would really be a horrible lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
But I was paying my way through college, so I was not changing my major.
Okay.
So when I graduated, or was getting ready to graduate, I realized I had this really valuable experience working in an industry that was dominated by men. And I had been very well trained in how to work in that arena. So I decided I was going to do this, and to compete in a man's world, and I realized that I would have things that other people didn't. And so I'd be on the plus side and the negative side in certain industries, or in certain perspectives of how that works. And that was very true. It's still true today. So, and that was 12 years ago, so it was 2005.
Is it really? Wow.
Yes. 12 long years.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about, residential, commercial, both?
We are in the sweet spot. So when I started my business, we did residential, kind of the tract homes. And when the economy crashed, I had to get pretty quick on what I was going to do because there was no more of that. And I was very lucky to get into multifamily. So when residential stopped, there was a big need for people needing apartment
rentals,
living.
Yes.
Right. So we got into the senior living community building, and I realized that is exactly where I want to be. It's just set up, the workflow and the volume is set up very well for the way that I want to run my business and the way that I want everything to shape out time-wise. Mm-hmm. So that is where we have stayed in that realm of the multifamily. So we do senior buildings, apartment complexes, student living, student housing, duplexes, things like that, like townhomes. But I try to stay away from the single houses, because you have a little less competition in the multifamily because you have to have access to a certain amount of funds to be able to, because you don't get paid every month.
To run a job like
right.
that.
So it eliminates that kind of guy who woke up one day last week and decided he wanted to be a drywall contractor. And so now he's your competition. Well, he's not my competition because he has to have access to a pretty significant amount of money to, play on that ball field. So that's my sweet spot right there.
Okay. And I gotta believe the demographic picture as a aging baby boomer, and baby boomers, 10,000 of us I think a day are turning 65.
They call it the silver tsunami.
So. I know in my career as a business broker, those types of businesses that cater to the mature demographic are very very attractive.
It is, and it's not something that's slowing down. It's just there's a lot less fluctuation in that market, where everything else is kind of, it could be good this year, it could be not great the next year. Because of the silver tsunami, there is a lot of demand, especially in North Carolina. North Carolina has really great tax benefits, I'm sure you know, for people up north that want to kind of pay a little less taxes on their retirement.
Benefits, but tax more differentially.
It is, right. So, like for instance, my grandparents moved down here because they were able to get an additional $6,000 a year.
Significant.
Right. So there's a huge amount of Northerners that are moving to North Carolina because we've kind of incentivized that.
Climate and culture,
right,
and there's
a lot of reasons. And so that market is really just going to continue to grow for quite a period of time. The other one is affordable housing. Especially our area has a huge need for affordable housing. So I have found that to be a very good market to be in and have experience in.
So typically then your customer is probably a general contractor or a builder? Or?
It is. My ideal client is a builder who owns what they build. It's a small market, but there is about a dozen owner builders in the state of North Carolina. And the beauty of that is they have a vested interest in the outcome. So we don't use the same products as 90% of the drywall contractors in North Carolina use. We use a product called no-coat corner bead. It's a vinyl corner bead, so that it can be damaged and repaired. It doesn't have to be replaced. It's also about 3 times more expensive.
Okay.
So it's a lot harder to sell that product to a general contractor who doesn't own it. They don't care as much about the long-term duration and what the cost ratio is going to be in the ROI on using a product that can be easily repaired versus replaced. So an owner builder understands that long-term value. Not to say that they're my only clients, because I have clients that are general contractors as well, but the ideal client is the owner builder because they really are invested in 20 years, as opposed to as long as the drywall's still on the walls in a year, I don't care. So that's my ideal client.
So which I guess speaks then to geography. So how large a shadow does PDI cast?
When I was younger, I thought I'll go anywhere, but as I'm getting older and realizing that there's only 24 hours in every day.
That may not be possible.
Exactly. We have gone to South Carolina. We've gone to Virginia. We've gone as far as Charlotte. I would like to stay in North Carolina. I realize that going out of state can get really complicated, especially with labor force. But we went to Beaufort. We did a project out of the beach a couple years ago, which was very interesting. And for the right relationship, because that's what I'm trying to build. I don't want clients, I want relationships. I want you to use me on all your projects, not just one.
One of your builders says, Mickey,
right.
we really need you on this
job. So one of my builders, and that's how I got to Beaufort. It was like, listen, we got a really tight deadline, nobody else can do it but you, can you please come out to Beaufort? So we went to Beaufort. So it's one of those things.
And that involves probably putting a crew, in a
we were
hotel
we were lucky that when the bulk of the work was being done, it was in the wintertime.
Okay.
So we were able to rent houses that were, drastically reduced because the owners typically would not be renting them during the wintertime. So it saved us a lot of money. But it was a whole new world of logistics and figuring all that out. So it was a new lesson.
Right. So growing outside your comfort zone and your
in my sphere of capabilities.
That's all good. It's all good.
Definitely.
So going back, I guess, soon after college, what event happened, or when did you know that I think this is gonna work?
Oh God. I feel like some days I wonder. I think that so when the economy tanked, it was a huge impact on, I didn't know if I was going to make it out of that.
2007, 2008.
2007, 2008.
At that point, you're in it 3-4 years.
I was super green still, and I had one builder who just came to me and said, listen, we owe you $40,000 and we're not going to pay it. And we think you're too stupid to come after the money. They literally said that.
Wow.
Because, you know, it was like 20-something-year-old blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl. What does she know about taking you to court and getting your money? And they figured it out because I took them to court and got most of my money. But there was definitely a time where I was like, oh, this is not going to work out. But it was really cool. In that time, I was able to do some consulting work. So I was able to use that youth, that greenness, to my advantage because I had that advantage of being a millennial and having technologically more access to what was happening in the world in that area. So drywall contractors, most contractors are kind of dinosaurs.
Yeah. Technology probably wouldn't.
They're trying to figure out how to send you a fax in 2017 and you're like, who has a fax machine? So I was able to use that, and I worked doing consulting work for another drywall company, and it was a trade-off.
Okay.
I was saying, listen, I'll teach you guys how to use technology and how to integrate that into your field work that you're doing, and you're going to teach me about multifamily. Because it's a whole nother animal. You can't just wake up one day and decide that you're going to go from being a residential drywall contractor to a multifamily. You've got to get your feet wet. And so that was the trade-off. During that time, I worked for almost free, and I learned how to do multifamily, and I taught them how to use technology. And once we got to that point, it was a great trade-off, and we shook hands and went separate ways, and now we're competitors. So, but you know, we both knew what we were getting into.
Saw that coming.
Exactly. But that, when I got into multifamily, and I completed my first project, that's when I realized that I was gonna be successful at this.
Mm-hmm.
So I realized that was my spot.
That's a great milestone.
It was.
And that 2009, 2010.
That was 2009, and I
Okay.
have worked for that same client since then. So I have done every single one of their drywall and paint projects since then. So that's where I learned that building a relationship is what's more important than building a client list. So, that's my knowledge.
That kind of flows nicely into my next question is about advice in terms of what was the best piece of business advice that you've ever received?
I have received some amazing business advice. I am lucky to have forced Mary Contando to be my mentor. I didn't ask her, you're my mentor now. And she's the owner, operator of the Women's Advantage, and it's a group that takes women and helps them grow their businesses past the $1 million mark.
Mary's been a guest for the small interview we on our project.
She is brilliant, I can assure you of that. And the first meeting that I ever went to of the Women's Advantage, she said that if you were not turning work away, then you weren't really in business. And I remember I just laughed at that. I was like, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And I was in this cycle of, even though it wasn't what I wanted to do, if somebody had money to give me, I was going to take it. Because I didn't understand my value. I didn't understand what I had to offer. So if somebody called me and needed a drywall repair, sure, we'll come do your drywall repair, even though I could have been making 5 times that amount of money bidding a job or doing something else. And it's hilarious to me now because I turn away work all the time now. Because it's over a period of time I really realized, and I think that's especially for women, but I think all small business owners think, I've got to be making that money. Like, even if it's $200 here or a couple $100 there, like, I've got to be bringing in the money.
Because we have long memories. Remember when we didn't know when the next job was coming in.
Exactly. And so it was like, how can I turn away work when I don't know where the next project is coming from? And it was realizing that the project will come when you focus on what is important. And I've stopped doing small repairs, and we don't really do renovation projects or things like that, and focused on the multifamily, and boom, that's all we do. That was the best advice.
Having a business model, having a plan,
yes,
sticking to your plan,
yes,
and
absolutely,
and executing.
Yes, and risking, like, it's a risk. Like, you turn work away and you think, oh gosh, What if I really needed that? You're risking that you may have needed that money, and now that's not going to pan out. But the amazing part that I've learned in business is no risk, no reward. And I think that's the hard, especially for women. Women are not risk takers. Women tend to be risk adverse. And the biggest risk I ever took was what got me where I am today. And just realizing that. I tell women, you gotta think like a man. I hate to say that, but like my father, he is a self-made businessman, and he would do things that I just would think, he's insane. This man is crazy, but it always worked out for him. And not to say that everything in life will, but he was willing to roll those dice, and that I learned that from him. That
calculated risks.
Calculated risks. Like he could see, like sure this could go the wrong way, but it could go the right way. So I'm gonna go that direction, and I learned to think like that, and things changed.
Which is pretty much the definition of profit.
Right.
Is the return for taking risk.
Right.
As opposed to paycheck.
Right.
Which is the return for
showing up from Monday to Friday. Exactly. That's very true.
What a great story.
Thank
Great
you.
insights.
Thank you.
Mickey, why don't you, if there's some builders out there, builders, how might they get in touch with PDI?
We have an awesome
Drywall?
Website, which is not common in drywall construction. I believe in websites, and I believe in investing in technology, so we have an awesome website. You can check us out at www.pdidrywalinc.com. My email address is mickey@pdidrywalinc.com. And I'm always, all my contact information is on there, and I'm always willing to talk drywall. I'm actually pretty good at it.
Okay, that's fabulous. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right.
I appreciate it.
For another edition of Small Business Insights, this is Don Emmett, Managing Director of Entrust Associates, and you can reach me at entrustassociates.com. Thanks, we'll see you next time.